Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sam Drew with the National Dropout Prevention Center, and I'm here with my co-host and colleague, Marty Duckenfield, also with the center, and I must say, we are very pleased to be with you today. I was going to begin the program by saying it's a rainy day here at Clemson. Actually, there's been quite a bit more excitement than that with a tornado having touched down, and we were shuffled into the bowels here at the Madron Center for several minutes until that passed.
Hey, but the show must go on, right, Sam?
That's right, and we're welcome. We want to welcome all of you back to this first of the new school year's monthly radio webcast. We took a month off last month, and I hope you had a good summer vacation. This program is brought to you by the National Dropout Prevention Center at Clemson University in partnership with Clemson Radio Productions and with the support of Penn Foster.
Well, we welcome you all back to Solutions, and we may have many first-time listeners, so welcome to our program. It is good to be back after the summer, and we're really enthusiastic about our program plans for the coming year. We really look forward to being part of your professional development plans over the next several months, and so at the end of today's program, we'll let you know about some of our future programming. Now today, we're going to try something new, thanks to our guest, Chris Peters' suggestion, and so let me take a minute now to explain a new option for our listeners. As you may have noted on the webpage for this broadcast, we offer, as usual, a PowerPoint of the slides for our presenter. What Chris has added for you to try is the option of using a live PowerPoint, in effect, presentation using Adobe Connect. If you click on this option, you'll come to the first page of his presentation. Sign in your name only, no password is needed, and you will have access to a more interactive presentation today. And in addition, and this will be fun, Chris has provided an option here for you to write us questions online, which we will try to get to along with the phone calls. So while I set up for the rest of the logistics, maybe you might like to try to see if the second option will work for you. So here we have the usual PowerPoint style kind of presentation ready for your viewing during the presentation. It's found on the same web page as the entry point into this broadcast. You may certainly select this as your option for viewing the presentation instead of Adobe Connect. Both will work fine. But do note, we have other excellent resources that we've collected for you to examine either before or after the webcast. And not surprisingly, being a program on educational technology, our resources are some excellent websites, and they're going to direct you to even more resources. So we encourage you to check all of these out. We want our listeners to participate in this program and be able to speak directly with our guests. You are an important part of our program, so please call in with your questions. Our toll-free call-in number is 888-539-8859, or if you're outside the U.S., and wouldn't that be fun, 864-656-4550, and you may begin calling in now or any time during the program. We will put you on hold for a few minutes, but we'll try and get to as many of your questions as we can during the broadcast.
Those of you who are regular listeners of this program know that Solutions to the Dropout Crisis is a professional development opportunity, or it's intended to be a professional development opportunity for you or you and your faculty to join us in focusing on what is working in dropout prevention. At the National Dropout Prevention Center, we have advocated for over a decade 15 research-based effective strategies for solving the dropout problem. And one of those strategies is educational technology. We are delighted today to have with us in the studio an expert on educational technology, Dr. Chris Peters. Chris is the director of the South Carolina Center for Excellence for Instructional Technology Training, and he leads the instructional computing efforts at Clemson University's Eugene T. Moore School of Education, and has been involved in delivering technology training to teachers, Chris, since 1983.
That's
so
right.
welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
I know from your resume and from what I know about you that you actually began your educational career as a fourth grade teacher. It's interesting that sort of parallels my career. I actually began as a fourth grade teacher also, and then an elementary principal, and I remember back when I started as a fourth grade teacher, which was probably 15 or 20 years before you, there was very little in the way of educational technology.
Right.
We did have actually, I think, a whiteboard in the school with markers.
That's impressive.
Yeah. We were ahead of our time. We had overhead projectors, we had slides, we still had film strips, and there was a little use being made of reel-to-reel, actually, filming.
Maybe you weren't as far ahead of me as you think you were, because I remember some of those same things.
And that's really what I was going to ask you is tell us how you got involved in educational technology. I know in '83 there was not a lot available.
No, there wasn't a lot available. The first microcomputers actually didn't even hit the market till the late 70s, and they were very expensive, and schools didn't have them. I taught fourth grade for several years. I stopped teaching, opened up a picture frame shop, and realized I was not a businessman, and I was going to get back into education, and I went back to Clemson for a master's in special education. And it was in the early 80s, and the School of Education, then the College of Education, was acquiring its first computers, and the department head had one of the only two computers in his office, and I bugged him by hanging out in his office. I just got hooked very quickly. I thought it was magic, and I got hooked ever since. About that time, Clemson was beginning a mobile training laboratory called Computer Vantage, and I was hired to run that and to drive around the state unloading 20 computers. These were state-of-the-art Texas Instruments 99 4As with a whopping 16 kilobytes of RAM. And I did workshops for teachers all over the state, and liked it enough that was given some time off to go to University of Georgia to finish a doctorate in instructional technology, and I've been back teaching education classes, computing classes, instructional technology classes for teachers at Clemson since 1988.
Well, we're really happy to have you here today and to be able to bring to bear the expertise that you've gained over these years. I know we have many listeners today. One advantage of this new technology is we can actually see the names of people who have who are online. So,
or at least their pseudonyms.
At least their pseudonyms. Yeah, one says enter room. But we've promoted educational technology as one of our 15 strategies because from the significant research base and from our own personal experience, we know that it has terrific potential, particularly with kids who are at risk of dropping out. It's a potential that can't be reached if educators don't understand how to engage their students in the many aspects of technology, and that's really what the program is focused on today. So we know that you, our listeners, will have many questions to ask, and we want you to engage with Chris today. I want to remind you again, toll-free, you may call in at 888-539-8859. If you happen to be outside of the United States, you can dial in at 864-656-4550. That latter number, I'm sorry to say, is not toll-free, but we would like to hear from you. So I know you have lots of questions. I know our listeners have lots of questions, Chris, but let's take a few minutes first and have you introduce them to educational technology as a dropout prevention strategy.
Yeah, let me set the stage maybe for the conversation that will follow. It's a huge topic, obviously. I'm hoping people are following along. I'm glad to see so many people are connecting through Adobe Connect. I think you'll have a richer experience. And if you aren't, there's still time. You've got the audio stream going, so just go to your web browser and type in connect.clemson.edu/solutions, and you can join us here. I'm going to pass by the title slide. For those of you that don't see the visuals, you'll need to know what slide I'm on. And the first point I'd like to make is we talk about technology as if it's something foreign, as if it's something that isn't part of all of our lives and every aspect of our lives every day. If you shop at a grocery store, much to the former President Bush's surprise, technology is critical at the checkout counter. Microwave ovens are sophisticated computers in a way. They have computer electronics that are driving them and controlling them. Our cell phones, my cell phone is far more sophisticated than the Texas Instruments computer I started my career with, digital watches, cameras. We've got lots of technology, and the solution is not pumping more technology into education. We don't need a bigger dose of technology. We need more strategic applications of technology. We need to take advantage of it. For a lot of people, a lot of research, a lot of expectations, technology really hasn't produce the effects that we thought it would. And the reason we thought it would is more often the sales pitches by technology vendors than it is any kind of rational basis for expecting technology to make the changes we hoped it would make. A lot of people have thought that we'd roll a technology truck up to the back of the building and unload a bunch of technology, and then smart would kind of happen in schools, that things would change overnight. Technology is a tool, and it's a tool that gives us fantastic opportunities. There are amazing things we can do with it, but it's not a solution. You don't buy a technology solution. Well, a lot of people do buy technology solutions because there are a lot of vendors selling technology solutions. But we'll do a lot better in the long run if we look at technology as a tool that we have to learn how to use responsibly. So I'll pass by the next slide. And the point is, it's helpful to remember technology fits into the overall spectrum of what we're trying to accomplish in education. It's not an end in itself. We certainly want students to be able to use technology and to take advantage of technology, but technology as an end in itself is not really what we're after. What we're after with instructional technology is what we're after in the rest of education. That is, at least in terms of the information age aspect of education. We want students to be able to access, to explore, to organize information, to make sense of that information, to evaluate the sources of information that they have access to. We want them to take that information and manipulate it, look at it in new ways, to analyze it and understand what it is they're looking at, and to generate new understanding from that. And we also want them to be able to communicate with others. And there are certainly other aspects of the school environment that educators have to be concerned with. But in terms of technology, here's where the contact point is. Here's one of the chief ways that we can begin to organize our thinking about where does technology impact the curriculum and the school environment. All right, going on to the next slide, which I think is slide 3. I don't have slide numbers on my slide, on my slideshow. There's been a lot made about 21st century skills. A lot of publications are touting what we need to be addressing in the curriculum, and this is just a slide, actually, that I borrowed from Adobe that points out that an awful lot of what employers are looking for today and what they see growing in importance over the next 5 years are areas that technology excels in, either supporting or promoting or as a platform. That being able to work as a team, and not just as a team in the same room, but being able to collaborate with people online is something that technology is fantastic with, giving us new tools to exercise critical thinking skills, being creative. The tools are there, and not only are these things that are important today, but you can see on the right half of the slide that critical thinking, IT applications, teamwork, collaboration, creativity, innovation are among the most critical things that employers are going to be looking at in the years ahead, and these are areas that we can really capitalize on technology to help our students. One of the key things about technology, one of the areas that it has a tremendous impact on students at risk, students who are in danger of dropping out, is that it gives them a new chance to either reinvent themselves or to just present themselves as they really are without any kind of stereotyping attached. There's a very famous cartoon here. I don't know if you can read that on your screen, but on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog, and one dog talking to another. And it's true that when you're online, it's the quality of your presentation of yourself that is what carries the day, and not whether you're wearing the right kind of sneakers or have your hair cut the right way or you live in a great house or you drive a particular kind of car. It's how you interact with others. It's the quality of the work that you participate in, the quality of what you produce. And so it gives us a great chance to start over with kids, to give them a chance to start over or to reinvent themselves and to get away from some of the limitations that are unfairly imposed on them. It also helps us instill a sense of empowerment, that because they aren't stereotyped, because they have tools at their disposal and information at their disposal that they've never had before, it can really give them a sense of what they can do, of who they are, what they will do in the future. And the reason I have this Solaflex ad on here is not because the guy's strong and that's empowerment. It's because of a meaningful story. And that is, when I was in graduate school working on my dissertation very late at night, Solaflex infomercials were coming on, lasted for 30 minutes, and over in my weakened intellectual condition, I was seeing that if I bought this machine, then I'd be buff like that guy. And so I bought the machine, and it was a great machine. And I used it, and I did not end up with the body that he had because I used it eventually as a plant stand, and I hung my laundry on it. That there's a lesson there, that the cost of getting his body wasn't the cost of acquiring the Solaflex machine. The cost of getting fit like that was using the machine and using it as intended to maximize the benefit. And often we think that acquiring technology is going to automatically instill the kind of empowerment that we want to, or that will automatically convey all the benefits that we hope it will. And can't tell you how many school districts I've known in the past that have spent tens of thousands of dollars on technology and didn't budget anything for professional development, that had no money to buy the software they wanted teachers to use. And so you really have to plan ahead and invest and realize that the cost isn't the financial cost. The cost of benefiting from technology is learning to use it well. Now, something new that's coming about, if you look at a lot of the literature dealing with technology, a lot of it is almost completely out of date because changes are happening so quickly in the realm of technology that the new programs, the new capacities, the new dimensions of using technology with students just haven't been anticipated and haven't been very well researched. And Web 2.0 just kind of embodies a lot of those technologies. Web 2.0 is very hard to define. The experts aren't really completely sure how to define it, but it's generally characterized by not just information being conveyed over the web and being able to shop and that kind of thing, but having applications that are web-based where users can participate in an interactive way, and not just with the machine, but with each other. So we've seen the rise of social networking, the millions and millions of users who are on MySpace and Facebook, distributed learning, being able to use Adobe Connect to reach audiences at distances far away. And in the case of our technical trouble today, it points out that this is not a foolproof solution. Online schools, South Carolina is one of many states working with online high schools so that students who don't have access to classes close to home can get what they need online. And then one of the newest things that is really taking off, and I'm not as big a fan of this as some of the folks I know, but I can see where the potential is virtual worlds such as Second Life. And that's what this picture is up here. Top right of this slide in Web 2.0, and that it's a virtual environment where you take on what's called an avatar. It's a physical representation of yourself, and it can look like you, or it doesn't have to. And you can actually interact with other people and fly around the island and do some very interesting things with that. And it takes a lot of bandwidth, takes a lot of computing horsepower, and its level of interactivity is incredibly intriguing right now, but we're just beginning to see a hint of what we'll be able to do with it in the future.
You know, Chris, this brings to mind a lot of questions in my mind. That first item, social networking, MySpace, Facebook, you hear a lot of stories about areas of concern here about young people being on these networks. And how do you suggest using these for teachers, and also looking at some safety measures so children are safe?
Yeah, it's kind of the Wild West. It's a frontier right now. Students are using them in ways that I would not have anticipated, and it's bringing up some social issues even beyond the safety issues. We've seen well-publicized stories of MySpace predators. In particular, MySpace folks are constantly trying to negate the efforts of predators to contact kids. I personally stay away from MySpace just because most of the adults and the students I know are on Facebook. And so I can talk a little bit about Facebook and that experience. What's interesting about that is students are pursuing it, but are doing it blindly in a way, and that is, I know somebody very close to me, somebody in my family who, when she and her boyfriend broke up and she changed her status in Facebook, it's not just that people coming to her page saw, oh, she's no longer dating him. It sends it to everybody she knows. So there's this broadcast of,
yes. Yeah.
and so there's a lot of information being shared that I'm not sure kids are aware. Not only is it being shared more broadly than they might anticipate, but once it's out there, it's out there. There's no calling that kind of information back. And so there are some weirdnesses to just the level of interaction that we have in social networks like Facebook that even the kids who are populating them really haven't completely grasped the implications. Now, from a teaching standpoint, it's really unnerving to me that if somebody invites you to be their friend in Facebook, that's called friending you. And so I've been friended by some of my students. And it's nice. It's a great compliment. At the same time, I'm not sure I want to be broadcasting to my students everything that I might be broadcasting to friends of mine. I'm not sure children who contact me, who I know through church or some other organization, it's kind of a flat social environment. There are beginning to be groups that you can share things with, but just knowing how to navigate those waters is tricky. Now, in terms of education and dropout prevention and working with students, we'd be fools to ignore the power there, that students are spending as much time now in social networks as they are watching television. And we've been complaining for years about how much television watching there is. Well, they're doing that with social networking, and it can be mindless, mind-numbing kind of amusements, and it can also be something that we should harness. And I capitalizing on that desire to connect is critical. One of the programs I would recommend, it's coming up in my slideshow in just a minute. It's a network actually called Ning.com, Ning.com. And it was started by, among others, Mark Andreessen, who's one of the early pioneers of the web. And it allows you to create your own social network. So you could, and it's protected, you can either have it open to the world or you can have it just for your people, your teachers, your students. I'll show you a slide of social network we started for technology facilitators in South Carolina that we're working with. Well, you can start with a very safe environment, and if the network is big enough, then it still gives students an authentic audience with whom to share what they're doing, their thoughts, to do some online writing, to do some sharing of media, but not quite in the exposed environment that Facebook and MySpace are. But even those are just, you may think of social networking as different from the virtual worlds, but it's all just kind of merging. It won't be too long till we're working on the web through an interface like Second Life, where it's not just pages of text and pictures, but it's a 3D environment in which we're interacting. And the social networking that's going on at Facebook will have the same kind of connection, and all these things will begin to merge into one and be a more seamless experience. Now, for listeners, that may just make no sense, and some folks may want to correct my thinking about that. But the issue is the web and the internet provide amazing ways for students to connect, and with potential dropouts in particular who are feeling disenfranchised or feeling disconnected or feeling that what they're involved in is not relevant in school, or that it's not of meaning and doesn't touch their lives. Here we have obvious power and an obvious draw, and we need to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it seems to me that if the network can be safe, there's so much potential for students in a classroom in our state, South Carolina, or Minnesota, or Florida, to be connecting with students of their age about similar interests and engaging with them in conversations and actually doing writing,
right,
which is to a real audience, which changes the whole the dynamics of going to school and just having it be just sheets, worksheets, and so forth, that connecting to others. If it's safe, that's the thing.
Yeah, there are many safe, as safe as they can be, online educational project. One of my favorites, or my favorite environments, is epals.com, and that allows classrooms around the world to connect with each other and to engage in collaborative projects and to share. There's also one that is the last slide in my show, and I think I'm pretty close to it, actually. There's a project that we have in the Center of Excellence. It's called the Digital Express, and it's an online writing environment, publishing portal. And we're working with teachers to help them understand better how to use digital imaging to support writing in the classroom. And so students can respond to a writing prompt, post what they've written online, and have peer reviewers who will respond to it. Teachers can evaluate it according to whatever rubric it is that their school or district is using. It's a developmental project. I think I'll get to that slide, but I'd invite people who want to know more about it to link to one of the links at the bottom of it. You can learn more at blog.mydigitalexpress.com or email me, and I think my email address is somewhere at the solution site.
Well, one thing we can do is have people write to us at ndpc@clemson.edu. I think, Chris, if you could take a minute to write to the people who are online to suggest to them, I'm gathering that locally there might be some sound, but beyond the town, because of the tornadoes that are in the area, that those people who are outside the boundaries of Clemson University may not be getting the sound, although they will in the archives. But we can get your questions if you're still bearing with us online and cannot get the sound. So Chris is taking a minute here to let people know that, and so we can invite your questions in as well as ours. So proceeding now, Sam?
And remember, too, while Chris is making contact with people who may not be able to hear us, that for those of you who do have audio, our toll-free number is 888-539-8859. Out of the U.S., 864-656-4550. And if what we have been discussing interests you and raises questions for you, go ahead and call in, and we'll hold you for a few minutes online and then have you address those questions to Chris.
Right. Okay, Chris, onward.
Okay, onward here. I'm hoping everybody saw that message. This is my first live big deal use of Connect, so I'm not sure who's seeing that or not. Technology on a shoestring is an issue that a lot of schools and districts are strapped for cash, and that's happening all over. It's worth knowing that there are many technology resources that are completely free, and there is a website that I'll refer to where I've listed a lot of them, and I'll flash that up. But also just some of the things that I'd recommend people check out are Google apps. That is, you can go to Google, open up an account, and have an online word processor, spreadsheet, a form processor, presentation package, and it's all online. Buzzword is this really cool online free word processor from Adobe. Photoshop Elements Express is a great free online image editing program. OpenOffice is a free alternative to Microsoft Office. Download.com has a ton of free programs and shareware programs you can try out. Hot Potatoes, I think these are available all through links that I actually posted on the solution site. Mm-hmm. Hot Potatoes is, I think, a British company that has a suite of 6 programs that are really useful for test generation and making matching games and things like that. And EDU 2.0, but it's edu20.com, is a free alternative to Blackboard. So it lets you do course administration online. These are just some of the many free tools that are out there. So it's just the tip of the iceberg. Places to start, again, for me, digital imaging, using digital cameras, which are ubiquitous and inexpensive now, offer so many possibilities in education that if you're strapped for funding, and who isn't, that using digital pictures creatively to engage students more in their work is an easy, low-threshold way to start. Helping students do online writing, so they're writing for an outside audience, either through blogging or wikis or online forums. A blog it would be an online diary, but you don't call it a diary. It was more like a journal, but now it's a web log is what that is. And there are some folk, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of blogs being actively maintained in the United States and abroad. Wikis are collaborative documents. The most famous, of course, is Wikipedia, which is an online encyclopedia that is actually incredibly useful. Well, Wikipedia is an example of a wiki. and I have no idea what wiki stands for or where it came from as a term, but you can have your own wiki. You could have a wiki about your school and things that people need to know who are newcomers to your school or your community, and others can contribute to it. It's a very live, dynamic online document. Forums are just places you can post questions and get answers. Ning.com I referred to before, epals.com, and the Digital Express I've also referred to. And I think I want to especially invite people to check out the Digital Express. We're looking for schools. Its interface was originally targeted for elementary writers, but it's being used by high schools. We've been contacted by a high school in Denmark, and that's not Denmark, South Carolina, but in Europe. So here's one screen. This is a screen that a student might see, and then this is the writing environment, and students can publish, and teachers review everything before it gets seen by the rest of the world. So there's a lot of teacher controls, but student support built in as well. The key thing, as in terms of wrapping up my initial thoughts before we try to work with some questions, is that technology can't be seen as a solution. It's got to be seen as a tool and an opportunity. That money is always an issue, but there are very low-cost, very worthwhile things to do, that the key isn't to somehow master technology, but to remember what we know about education and learning and being human and being supportive and helping people succeed, and taking advantage of whatever technology we have access to help kids succeed, to realize we're collaborators with them in their future growth, and they're becoming adults and citizens and participants in society, and technology can help us do that. But it's up to us to take responsibility for that. And there are two examples, two negative examples, I think, of things that have alarmed me. One, I was touring with, I was invited by a major technology company to see this great installation they had done at a local school. So I was one of a bunch of people who went to see the school. And two things there troubled me deeply. One was the computer instructor was no longer a computer instructor. She was bragging about the fact that this system was so terrific. All she had to do was come in the morning, turn it on, kids would come in, log in, the computer would do the diagnostic prescriptive thing, give them the software to go through. And it's great technology, maybe, but the teacher was bragging about having relegated her job to a computer and having relegated herself to obsolescence. And as professional educators, we have to realize the computer does not love the children, is not looking out for them, and that we're the difference in their success, not the technology. The other weird thing that was there.
And what we hear, Chris, too, is that the computer is non-judgmental, so and it gives immediate feedback. So in that respect, that's a good.
Yeah, that's great.
Computer-assisted learning is a good tool, but it certainly doesn't mean that the teacher no longer has a job in the classroom, but that job changes dramatically. And it may be that we're not doing enough in the way of professional development for our teachers.
Well, we certainly aren't helping teachers maximize it. I don't want to put the blame on teachers. When I think back to the job I had as a fourth grade teacher years ago and what I would face now if I went back to the classroom, there are so many more expectations and so many impediments to engaging students. I was a surrogate daddy to many of my fourth grade students, and now I'd get fired because can't touch them, can't hug them. Sure. But the other thing I wanted to get to in that school that really troubled me, but I think it's exemplative. Is that a word? Exemplative? It exemplifies something that I see in education, is that the vendor was bragging about the impact the system had had on this school. And he said, kids are coming to school, everybody's engaged, the absentee rate has dropped 400%. And I heard that twice, and nobody challenged it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there thinking, all right, if 100 people are absent and we cut that 100%, nobody's absent. How do we cut it 400%? And the fact that nobody questioned it is, technology is good. Let's just bring in more technology. Mm-hmm. And that's not where we need to go.
Well, we see a lot of technology in schools, and you're right. Teachers need to make that leap from where they were originally trained maybe 10, 20 years ago to the way things are now. And so all of a sudden there's been a major investment in a school of technology. What should happen then? What should happen? Let's give some guidance to our educators out there.
What should happen when...
Once they've made this big buy of all this great stuff, and it's summertime or spring or whenever this happens, what's the plan that should go into place to help teachers maximize the use of this?
I'd rather see districts spend half as much on the hardware and spend the other half on training and support. And the training has to be more than here's how you use it, but really needs to be ongoing support. Technology coaches in place to help teachers see the connection between what they're teaching and the technology, so that the technology enhances what they're doing instead of just thinking that if I do this online, it's automatically better. That here at the university years ago, when the push was on to use technology, to take advantage of it, a lot of professors took their overhead transparencies and dumped them into PowerPoint. And, it may be a more convenient, more portable medium, but it's not inherently better than the transparencies were. So we need to distinguish between the real benefit that the technology offers, the payoff, and the technology, that just acquiring it doesn't mean anything good. So the first thing I would do is say make sure you have adequate support in place. It's technology. We want to give it lip service. We want to say it's really critical, but technology coaches are often the first that are getting cut. And I don't know who should get cut, but it's seen as a kind of an add-on. There are projects we've done with schools that require teachers and students to use the computer lab, but the computer labs aren't available for weeks at a time because of the online achievement testing that's going on, the assessments. So there needs to be provision for helping teachers use it with support and a recognition that it's worth the effort. Teachers need to be rewarded for doing that. I think a teacher makes a really reasonable decision and judgment if she says, I've been teaching this subject for 20 years, my kids excel, and I don't understand this technology that you're forcing me to use. I don't see the connection. I don't see how it's going to make things any better. In fact, it's going to prevent me from doing some of what I'm used to doing. Why should I make that investment of time and effort to learn how to use it? And I think they deserve an answer, that there are times the technology isn't preferable. That as big a fan as I am of technology, I would rather my children were in a class with a master teacher who had no technology than with a really poor teacher that had every technology known to man. But having said that, a skilled teacher who has technology at his or her disposal can do things that we would not have thought possible just a few years ago. And so helping teachers really to buy into it instead of mandating you will use technology. We've bought this thing, and the problem with buying the latest and greatest technology, as you described, is usually that means we're chasing a fad, often because a vendor has been successful in inflating our expectations about that. We've got a project, in fact, the Digital Express project that I referred to, all it is an online writing and publishing system that uses digital images. When I was preparing to be a fourth grade teacher, one of our things was to, as a pre-service teacher, was to create a picture file, ripping magazine pictures out and having an archive of those. And I mean, it's not that this is a revolutionary idea where the Digital Express comes in as it's cool, kids really like it, and it helps them share their work with others and get feedback from others. Well, there was a school district I've contacted recently who wouldn't participate unless we could guarantee results. And I thought, is there any technique that is there any teaching innovation that's going to guarantee results? There are a lot more variables at work than just the innovation itself. And it's the expectation of, if I acquire this technology, great things will happen. So whether it's Digital Express or whiteboards or PDAs or whatever the latest and greatest technology is, it's a little bit alarming to buy it and then to consult the teachers. Teachers need to be supported and educated to understand what would benefit them. I think one of the best things we could do there is send teachers to conferences. NEC, N-E-C-C, was in San Antonio this past June. It's every summer. It's an amazing gathering of between 10 and 15,000 educators plus vendors. If you want to see what's going on and to pick and choose, it's a smorgasbord of technology ideas. Most states have great conferences. I saw we had somebody online from Minnesota, I think I just saw that pop up. Maybe it was Michigan, but if you get above North Carolina, they're all the same, really. No, sorry about that. But I was thinking of Minnesota. The Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium back in the 80s was one of the big agencies out there. So it was a little blast from the past. Maybe it was Michigan. But I digress.
You do.
Conferences. Most states have really good conferences that teachers would benefit from by raising their awareness, and that would be a great way to spend money.
Well, it occurred to me, going back to that earlier slide about what we need to do to prepare students and young people for living in the 21st century, that this is a great sell for how you can, yes, teach your curriculum, but you're also doing these other things at the same time, because technology is so much a part of our lives now, and that's where kids are. They're using it well beyond where many of us are, and they are really engaged in it. So it does meet a lot of the needs that we see in dropout prevention, as far as those goals that we see, those career and work goals, and then also the engagement of students in something that really interests them. And so it can provide and meet a lot of needs integrated with other instructional approaches.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's easy for us who grew up with 3 channels on television to not really understand or connect with the world that students are facing. My daughter IM'd me. She instant messaged me. Well, it wasn't really instant messenger because it was the chat function within Facebook last night, telling me what TV program she was watching over the web. It had nothing to do with the television. She was watching a program. And so, I have a slide. Let's see if I can bring this up. There it is. This is the way things kind of were. This is another slide I borrowed from Adobe. There were pretty limited media options not too long ago. And if we just consider the gamut of things that students have now, that, it's not waiting for a letter, it's waiting for email or for some other kind of messenger service. It's not looking just at NBC, ABC, CBS, and if you're a real nerd, ETV. You've got, a gazillion cable stations plus stations over the web, and if you missed the episode of The Office that you wanted to see, it's available online. It's a much different world, and we're still talking about technology. I never hear students talk about technology. They don't think technology. They think function and device and need and connection. So realizing the world that our students are growing up in and the level of expectations they have is critical to just trying to get inside their heads and help them find their way. And but this is a little bit daunting to see all these, but look at the opportunities that we have. It's not that we have to master each and every one of these, but understanding kids are multi-channel. Kids are multitasking. They're processing, or at least partially processing, a lot of things at one time. And so just trying to give them multiple ways to do it, and I guess connecting to potential dropouts, it's not a one-size-fits-all world anymore. There's no reason to expect that if they don't thrive in a sit up straight in your seat in rows in the classroom, you go to the restroom between classes, you do this on a fixed schedule. If they don't thrive in that world, that somehow the world isn't going to make a place for them. There's no reason for them to be limited by those kinds of one-size-fits-all restrictions. And so giving them multiple ways to learn, giving them multiple ways to interact is what technology can really
and I think that may be a central question answered really with technology, is that, and particularly with the student who's at risk of dropping out. All of our kids are multitasking, and they really all need multiple ways of getting things done in the classroom rather than one path. But with those kids who are at risk, they are more likely to drop out if they don't get this, whereas there's another body of students who are going to adapt to whatever system we throw at them. So this is good for all kids, but it's particularly good for at-risk kids. And given what you've said, students are far ahead of most teachers, most adults. You've talked about conferences, local conferences in particular, that are not costly to attend. What other suggestions would you have for teachers really trying to keep up with technology?
Well, I think one key thing, and there have been some national projects that have demonstrated the viability of this, is taking advantage of the fact that kids aren't put off by technology and they have expertise. Instead of trying to pretend that you do have expertise if you don't, take advantage of students and their ability to support you. And I don't mean have them make out your tests for you in a test-generating program, but have them take charge of some of the technologies, have them organize the classroom wiki, have them explore what it's going to take to do it. With your guidance, absolutely, because we don't want students publishing things online, or as much as I like digital imaging, and you can do some really interesting things, and I'll switch this while I'm talking. You can do some amazing things with digital images. Here's a picture of my daughter. I chose this. She's got the chicken pox, obviously. And I was thinking of blemishes that strike later in life and how nice it is to be able to just to take those out. And there are a lot of personal imperfections that can be remedied. Well, as easily as you can manipulate visual data, you can do some pretty harmful things too. And you can, not by reducing chicken pox, but and I don't have an example of a harmful photo that I'm about to show you, but you can imagine pranks that students might play that involve changing images that wouldn't be very helpful. I'll just go through some of these as I'm talking. Here's why I like digital imaging. This is a picture that was taken. This is me over here on the left, and my brother and a couple of friends. We went trout fishing. I didn't know it was catch and release when I was asked to go, and this is pretty much what we caught anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But here's the story that we're telling after the fact. And yeah, all right, it's a fun picture, but what a great way to stimulate writing. I remember death coming over me as a child when the teacher would say, take out a clean sheet of paper and you're going to write a story. I need more to go on than that. Well, digital imaging can really help. You can also help by spotlighting somebody. This is a fellow at a local middle school, just a candid shot taken. Here we've isolated him, and now it's a backdrop is dropped behind him. Suddenly that's worthy of a poster that carries kind of a cool thing that could elevate his status. Is this dependent on digital imaging? No. I remember my high school algebra class. I was a dinky kid and was a good math student in with the football players and a bunch of other guys, and just felt like, I'm going to get crushed in here. And I told a story to my math teacher, and in it I recounted how a kid across the street had called me Grizzly, slurring Chris and Lee. And for the rest of the year, the math teacher called me Grizzly, and suddenly I had status with the football players. And hey, Grizzly, how you doing? Well, that had nothing to do with technology. So this is just writing on how do you notice kids in a positive light and elevate their status. But you can also integrate them. So suddenly this is a poster, or the beginning of a poster, to get other kids into clubs or things in campus, and you can drop other pictures in. Spotlighting student achievement, whether it's activities or something good that they've done, is so inexpensive with digital imaging that we're really missing something to not take advantage of it. Teaching kids to integrate their pictures into text that they might write. Here's another fanciful picture. This is Ryan, who works in our office in the Arc de Triomphe, and he's shot, and we merged the two shots, and now he's the monster of Paris. Another writing opportunity. I tend towards the fantastic kind of writing opportunities, but it doesn't have to be quite like that. Just another picture. This is my younger daughter, and with a filter applied, suddenly that's an artsy shot and just is really cool. It's my older daughter, just a real gray day somewhere up the New England coast, but by boosting some of the colors, it's Susanna in Leprechaun Land right now. There's a story to be told there. This one I kind of like. This is our friend Seth on the beach, and I'd like to think he was pondering things, but I think his eyes were closed behind the shades there. But, I don't think he was really at the time pondering the meaning of his life. But it's a pretty cool image. But let's take that out and put a different backdrop behind it, or maybe who am I in the universe? So here's a Hubble Space Telescope shot. Lots of images for free that we can use, available through archives or other resources, especially in a time in which America is catching a lot of heat around the world and in which we're rethinking our national purpose. You could use a picture like this as a stimulus for a pretty meaningful writing assignment, just dropping in the Statue of Liberty. So I don't want to continue too much down this line, but just to say digital imaging is so inexpensive now that and it holds such power that we really need to take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's a point.
Hey, we've got to tell our listeners who may have been the shy ones and tried to go through the PDF that they are missing something right now with these pictures. So if you're listening to this on the archive, take the leap and listen to it through, because Chris is saving this online for us, aren't you?
Right.
So they're going to be able to see these terrific pictures. They are excellent.
And actually, we can post this set of slides, another PDF, if you want to, and put it back on the.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you.
Yeah, when I asked the question before about suggestions to teachers for just keeping up with technology, I thought that maybe it begged the question of allowing students to take the lead, really, with some of this. In other words, these digital images are things that a lot of students know how to do.
Yeah.
And they could create writing prompts in for other students or other kinds of activities like that. But to give them a lead, really, with
part of what I really like about this, too, is you remember, I don't know a kindergarten student who hasn't come home from school saying, look what I did today. And it wasn't that whatever they did was universally excellent, but it was theirs. Doing digital imaging like this gives everybody a chance to say, ooh, how did you do that? How did you work that effect? And it becomes a collaborative environment among students and the teachers and students that is really powerful, where it's like we're all invested in exploring and learning this together, so it doesn't have to be threatening.
You know, I wanted to add this because of my appreciation of the strategy of service learning, that high school students really know how to do this stuff. And there's a lot of teachers out there who depend on their students to show them how to do things. And also we could, harness the power and the capacity of these students to share this knowledge with other teachers as well. So when you're looking at cost issues and training, actually some of the students in the school or a local college
absolutely
could be very helpful in sharing all these really neat things that you've been showing us today.
Absolutely.
Well, Marty, maybe we've been talking too much, asking too many questions ourselves.
Well, let us just tell our listeners that this has been a very brave thing that we've been doing here. The other guys don't know that another tornado came through, and I didn't tell them. They said the show just keep on going, and so I said I'm not going to tell, and I'm just going to hope we make it. So we're still alive here in the Madron Center. We've had a really interesting time with Chris Peters. And the reason we haven't had any calls is because A, nobody can call in, and B, nobody can hear us. So this is being recorded, and it's going to be appreciated in the archives and on other sources, as we'll describe in a minute. But that's why, Sam. But our questions have been really good. I got to say, we did a good job today.
Well, we did a great job, and especially in light of what you've just said. And we couldn't be any safer in this room with padded walls.
Yeah. So. Eric said, don't worry, we're safe here, and I believe him. He's never led me astray.
Chris, we want to thank you for this opportunity to talk one-on-one with you and to receive this presentation about issues related to instructional technology. I know there are a lot of people out there who will visit this archive and profit from this discussion, and there are other ways that they can send questions in maybe that we could answer later. So, Marty, any closing remarks?
Well, I just wanted to remind listeners who do get this on the archive later tonight and afterwards. It's going to be up tonight and onwards from then on. That we will be broadcasting, hopefully with no more tornadoes. I find it kind of ironic that the program on technology has been affected by this situation where the technology crashed, but not inside the recording studio. We got it down, don't we, Eric? Okay, so it's going to be there. But these programs are archived, and you will have access to them. And then on the fourth Tuesday of next month, I mentioned to you earlier that we've started our plans for the fall, and we have a program on connected counseling. And Sam, you remember that site visit that the Solutions team made to Harding High School in St. Paul, Minnesota? We learned all about that counseling program and the 6-year plan.
A great visit, Marty, and a terrific program, and we're very pleased that Kitty Johnson from St. Paul Public Schools will be with us in September on our program. I'm looking forward to it. I believe we have a short video to share with our audience, and we'll have that posted in the next few weeks that depicts our visit there and illustrates the connected counseling program there.
Right. Notice the next program, I think since this was the technology program and the technology crashed, we're going back to people next month. Technology thing, we're going to have to revisit this, but by the looks of things, though, Chris and Sam, I think the test showed that we had a lot of people who logged in, and we're so sorry for a lot of reasons, and I'm afraid that when we go outside this building, we're going to be really sorry for a lot of reasons about the tornadoes that have hit the Clemson area. But we hope that those of you who have listened to this in the last hour have achieved as much as I have, learning so much. And thank you, Chris, about bringing that to us.
It's been great.
Yeah, this is a rich medium, and I hope we can continue using it because I think it really adds to the radio webcast, and it's much more interactive for people. So one more time, Chris, thank you. It's been a great introduction to a powerful educational strategy. I want to thank you all for listening and participating, even if it's by archives. Remember that we know why students are dropping out of school, and with research-based solutions, we can assure that all our students graduate. So join us next month for more Solutions to the Dropout Crisis.